If your goal is to make as much money as possible or to make more money than you are currently as a business owner, then you need to learn to be as productive as possible with your time and energy, because the amount of money you make is dependent on this simple formula. The money you make is equal to the time you put in, or the available time you have, multiplied by the intensity of focus of your focus, because sometimes you can be distracted, not as focused. Intensity of your focus varies, multiplied by the value of the activity or the leverage of the activity that you're working on. Now, these three things by definition is your productivity. The more time you could put in with a high intensity of focus on the highest value of activity, the more money you make. So if you want to make more money, you're in the game of trying to maximize as much time you could put in with as much intensity of focus with the highest value of activity as possible. That is your game plan on how to make more money. Now, from my 3 years of coaching online business owners to make more money and be more productive, there are 9 obstacles that stop you from being productive, that stop you from maximizing the amount of time with the high intensity focus on your highest value of activity. So I'm going to go over that in this video, exactly how you could eliminate these 9 obstacles and make more money in your business. Real quick, if you want to apply the information that I'm going to go over in this video, I'm going to have a free PDF download in the link in the description. All you need to do is put in your email and you get access to it. All right, so these are the 9 obstacles that you want to completely remove from your workflow if you want to make more money. Number 1 is disorderliness and chaos. Number 2, open loops. Number 3, multitasking. Number 4, poor time and energy management. Number 5, overproduction or working beyond the requirement. Over communication, when you communicate more than you actually do the work. Unused leverage and resources. Rework, low commitment, and inconsistency. Now, I'm going to go over into extensive details onto each single one, starting with disorderliness and chaos. Now, disorderliness and chaos is when you don't have any organization structure with your workflow or in your workspace. It looks like so. You have tabs open all over the place. You have documents everywhere. For you to find something, it will take you like at least a few minutes to find it. And if you think about it, the amount of time it takes you just to spend time to find the files or the assets that you need to be working on, that you're already wasting time and that's already ruining your focus. So in order to eliminate this, what you really want to have is a clean and ordered workspace with a clear organization structure so you can get to work faster on what is going to make you more money and reduce the friction to get to work. Because if you just open up your computer and you look at this, you have a workspace and you work like this, like you're not gonna feel like you could focus and get work done. So this is why this is one of the first things you need to focus on. Now the question is, how do you clean up and maintain a clean workspace or an organization structure? Well, I like to follow the 5S framework. It's pretty simple. Number 1, you sort things. So you start arranging things and you start figuring out, is this something I need or is this something I don't need? And you can do this process with any workspace that you work with, digital or physical. Like if you want to clean up your phone, you want to clean up your desktop, you want to clean up your closet, whatever, this is the same framework that works all over the place. Now, I recommend you cleaning up your whole life from like your personal life all the way to your digital workspace. It really saves up the time and energy that you could spend back into your business. So sort, get rid of unneeded items and keep needed items. So you sort, do I need this? Not need. Then you set an order. You place the needed items into the correct place for easy and immediate access. Then you want to shine. So you want to keep all aspects of the workplace clean. So all you want to have visible is the things that is needed and required. Then you want to standardize. What is a clean workspace looks like? You want to standardize that and keep things simple and standardized. 5th, then you want to sustain it. You want to make sure that you every week or every month, you actually go through your workspaces and you clean up everything so you can make sure things are clean and organized. Now, once you do that, when you work, you want to make sure that you focus on one thing at a time as well. Because if you have multiple tabs open, then it's going to be very hard for you to focus. The intensity of your focus is not going to be as intense because your focus is split into 2 things. So ideally, when you work, you want to use the power of one screen, One tab, one task at a time. That should be your rule when you work. So that is disorderliness and chaos. Now, the next thing is open loops. Now, open loops is when you have like incompleted mental loops in your head. It makes it very hard for you to put attention into completing any one thing because you just have all these things going through your head. This could be like trying to do multiple things at once. Like maybe you have multiple projects going on, multiple tasks, and you haven't completed every single one. So like your brain is trying to like close the loops, and your brain hates having open loops. It really likes closing loops. So when the faster you can close loops, the more momentum you have in being productive and getting things done. Like the easiest example I could give you is when you go through a to-do list and you actually check things off, you feel good about it. But when you look at to-do lists and you see so many like unchecked boxes, you get kind of like overwhelmed and your brain doesn't really like it and you procrastinate, you don't want to work. That is open loops in action. Now, another way you could get open loops is if you check social media way too much. That is a fast way to give you open loops because you're going to want to like check everything, you know, like if you open up YouTube and you see all these thumbnails, you're like, your brain like wants to check all these things because it's opened the loop. It's like, oh, what is that? Curiosity loop. So what you want to do is try to look for ways we can close loops or not even open any loops at all. So what happens is this takes away significant mental bandwidth or attention span, making it harder for you to focus on what really matters. So instead of putting your time and attention on what will grow your business and generate you more money, your attention is drawn to other initiatives and distractions. You want to make sure you have zero open loops. And this makes it easier for you to put in more focus into your higher leverage activities. That's going to make you more money. So how do you avoid opening unwanted loops? Avoid social media, checking messages and email or notifications first thing in the morning. If you do that, that's going to open up too many open loops. You can have curiosity. What did that person post? Oh, he posted a new video. Let's check it out. Your brain's going to want to do those things. It is much better to not even like see that in the first place. Next thing you want to do is get your most important work before you actually open any loops or checking social media, etc. You want to reduce, I personally like this, reduce listening to lyrical music because how many times have you listened to a song and all you could think about is the lyrics of the song, repeating it over and over again? That is not good if you want to build up a business or you're going to be thinking about music instead of like your projects and completing that. And then ideally no YouTube music or podcasts in the background while doing any focused work because that also opens up loops. Something might catch your attention. You might want to figure out how that works. And that's going to make it really hard for you to actually focus. Next is multitasking. Now, they actually did research on this and they compared that if you multitask and you work on multiple tasks at one time, so let's say you do task 1, task 2, task 3, and you're hopping from all these tasks, it will take you significantly longer if you just focus on one task at a time. So what you want to do is focus on one task at a time, 100% focus, complete that, check the box, and then move on to the next task and the task after that. Again, this is also going to help you minimize open loops because if you work on multiple tasks, you're going to have open loops, harder for you to focus. Again, work on one task at a time is the fastest way to complete work and ensure you funnel 100% attention on what will generate you the most money. How do you avoid multitasking? Work on one single task or project at a time before you bring in the next one. And I have more information on this on my YouTube channel. So there's 2 YouTube videos you could watch. Get more work done by avoiding this one simple mistake and the flow system, achieve more in 2 hours than most do in a week. So those are on my YouTube channel. You can check those out. Number 4 is poor time and energy management. So if you want to actually get results in your business, you need to first funnel that energy. You need to have the energy because when you have energy, then you're able to focus. If you don't have energy, you can't focus, you can't get any work done. So the root cause or the primary thing you need to focus on is making sure you have energy and time because how you use your time depends on the quality and the quantity of energy available to you. The more energy you have, the better you can focus, the more results you make. This is why you want to make sure that you manage your energy properly. So how do you manage your time and energy? You want to make sure you take care of your health. You sleep well, you eat well, and you actually exercise, and you get a good like health and fitness plan for yourself. And then you also want to plan your day in advance and make sure that you use your energy properly. You work on the high priority task or the tasks that require high amounts of energy and focus in the times that you have energy peaks or you have more energy. So it is making sure you schedule your day properly to match when you have energy and you actually get the work done required. Because if you think about it, if you work on low leverage tasks that don't require a lot of energy in the beginning of the day when you have so much energy, and then you leave the hard task that's going to make you more money at the end of the day when you have less energy, you're not managing your energy and time wisely. So you want to match that. You want to match a high value task that requires a lot of energy with the time that you have a lot of energy. So it makes more sense that way, and you use your time and energy wisely to make more money. Now, number 5, overproduction or working beyond required. You want to first figure out what is good enough for a work or what is quality to you whenever you work on a specific task. And then you want to make sure you stop there and then you don't go beyond there all the time. Because all of these resources that you're going to spend into going beyond the work required or the quality, that is just wasted time and energy, wasted resources. The last thing we want is to put in unnecessary work beyond the required to get the result, because that'll be a big time sink. You want to be working on initiatives once, get it right, and then move on to the next initiative to keep things progressing. Because if you constantly put in way too much energy into the work and it's not required, you're going to waste a lot of time and energy. Your goal is to create the simplest, clearest, and fastest workflow to get the desired result for your customers and clients and remove all the fluff. When we do this, we can regain back time and regain work capacity to complete other work. Because if all you're doing is overwork, doing things that is not going to add value to the end result, that could be spent on adding more value elsewhere, and then you making more money. How do you avoid overwork? You want to ask yourself, are there parts of your work process that can be eliminated or streamlined without affecting results? So like straight up test with outright eliminating elements of your work process or replacing it with a more leveraged version. So if this is taking you how long right now, like this, try to think of ways that we could eliminate parts and still hit the value required by a customer or a client. If that's possible, that will make it easier. You could regain a lot of resources. And then another way you could do is gauge demand and interest and only create based on what's requested. So instead of overworking, let's say you're creating a course, instead of putting in like so much more stuff into the course that is necessary, just figure out what the demand and interest is required and just create what is needed. And then always strive to create the simplest, clearest, and fastest version of work. And then ideally, you want to create a clear scope, boundaries, and expectations with clients before starting any work. Because scope creep is real. Scope creep is when your client says, I want this, and you both agree on it. And then they continuously add more and more and more to what you actually agreed upon in the first place. So you want to make sure you have a clear expectations and you let them know exactly this is what we're going to do. And then anything else is going to be more money or you're going to charge more money for that, because then you don't want to put in all this time, attention, energy and not get paid for it or not add this extra value of time. So you want to make sure your time, attention, energy is spent in the highest value way possible. Now, number 6 is over communication. It's when you spend more time talking, communicating with other people, sending back and forth, the repetitive communication back and forth instead of actually doing the work. You experience this when your calendar is with too many meetings that aren't impactful or necessary. Is your calendar with too many meetings that aren't impactful or necessary? If there's a way that you could remove it, then go for it. If you find yourself responding back to messages, talking about the project instead of executing, you're over communicating. If you find yourself constantly interrupted during focus work by text messages, that is over communication. Now, this is important because if you allow yourself, you can spend hours of your week or your day talking about work instead of actually doing the work that matters. Now, your goal is to basically relay critical information in the simplest, clearest, and most compact way that will advance work and generate results. Any fluff, all that stuff, you want to try to streamline that as much as possible. You want to avoid over communication. How do you do that? You want to set clear client expectations outright. So for example, if you're working on a project, you want to tell clients or team members that project updates will be given on X days. So every Monday or Tuesday, there's going to be a project update. And then if they want to check the progress, they can click on the page. And instead of them asking you over and over again, hey, when is this project going to be completed? They already know, like they could check that page and they can have like live updates on when things are going on. So that saves you time over communicating back and forth. Try to make it easier for clients and coworkers to get information they need themselves. So you could create a frequently asked document or a wiki with SOPs. You want to consolidate all the necessary information so they don't need to ask people back and forth. So instead of asking, they just check it out on the page where it's all consolidated. And then you want to consolidate your communication to specific time of days. So instead of sporadically hopping on calls throughout the day, texting back and forth here and there, what you want to do is set a clear block off time in the day on when you're going to respond to messages or when you're going to hop on calls and so on. That helps you gain back time into your calendar. Also think about, can calls be replaced with a Loom video or a text doc with all the details? If possible, do that. And then ideally set up office hours if you work with a team or with clients, where you can set specific times a day where you can answer people's questions and allow yourself to get interrupted and distracted, rather than just hopping on calls here and there and trying to do all these things at once, consolidating into one place and trying to reduce the amount of back and forth. 7, unused leverage and resources. You waste potential when you do not use the full power of resources and forms of leverage available to you. So there are 4 forms of leverage. It is capital, code, media, and labor. You should be leveraging these whenever available to you and try to get more out of what you put in. If you're not looking for ways to implement capital, code, media, or labor into your business, you're wasting hours of your time and potential money you could be making. So common mistakes are not leveraging the full skills and work capability of your team. So if you have a team now and you're not training your team and they don't know how to do things properly, you're wasting time and you're losing money. Not leveraging AI, you could be getting done things way faster if you use AI. Not creating SOPs, you could be gaining way much more time if you had SOPs and saving time here and there if you had SOPs. Not investing money into acquiring skills and upgrading systems in your business. You're operating at this level and could be operating at this level if you're implementing leverages and resources. And the gap between here and here, that is the amount of money you could be losing because you're not implementing leverage and resource. The outcome you get out of hard work is linear. Like everyone thinks, let's work harder, but not a lot of people think work smarter. Now, the outcome you can get from implementing leverage is exponential. So this is why your goal is to maximize the value of your time. And you do that by finding ways you can increase it by implementing leverage into your life and business. So the question is, how do you implement leverage? You want to look for ways you can do something once and get an outcome out of it. So one-to-end thinking. So if I post media, if I post one video, that could be n amount of views. So that's me using media as leverage. If I create like a code or something or like an SOP, that I created one time and that solves like n series of actions. So someone else could go through that SOP without me needing it to explain it. So that runs by itself. One automation, n series of automation runs. So you want to think of ways, what are things that I could do one time and get an end outcome out of it. So that's the goal of making sure you implement leverage and resources to make more money in your business. 8, rework. Now, if you do work incorrectly and have to do it again, instead of it taking, let's say, 10 minutes of your time, it will now take 20 minutes because you spent 10 minutes doing it wrong and then you need to spend the next 10 minutes doing it right. Or if it takes you 2 hours, you did it incorrectly. Now you need to do it all over again and spend another 2 hours. So these 2 hours are completely wasted. So you want to look for ways where you can have the clear process outright, like laid out clearly, so you don't need to do it over and over again and waste time. Because the amount of money you could be making is double, literally double. Like right now you could be working 8 hours a day, but then 4 hours of that is like rework, doing things incorrectly. You could literally double your output by just avoiding rework and making sure you do things right, doing it correctly the right time. So the question is, how do you do that? Before you work, you want to make sure you measure twice before you cut once. So ideally you want to make sure you know how to successfully execute a task and make it clear on what the outcome is going to look like. So how do you avoid rework? You want to do your research. Figure out what it takes to execute the task correctly. It might not take you 2 hours It might take you like 10 minutes, but at least those like 10 minutes of research is going to help you save so much more time making mistakes. Here's where it's worth to communicate and extract important information with people that you're working with in the project or stakeholders before execution if necessary. So if you're working on a client project and you're unsure what they want, it is worth asking them exactly how they want it if you're unclear, rather than doing something incorrectly and then needing to do it all over again. Okay. And then another thing you could avoid rework is to create prototypes. So before you can't make irreversible changes. So anytime where there's irreversible changes, you want to make sure you measure twice before you actually do the cut or you actually execute. If you will create or sell products, make sure you gauge customer demand before you spend time or capital selling it, because you might sell something that nobody actually wants. So that's how you avoid rework. Now, the final and last one is low commitment and inconsistency. Now, too many people start things and quit. And if you know by now, results takes time. You must commit and stay consistent. Now, the fact that you do not commit, let's say you have shiny object syndrome, you constantly hop from one thing to one thing. This is similar to unused leverage and resources. The amount of money you could be making or the potential amount of money you're making is a massive loss. Like, instead of you staying consistent with one vehicle or one thing and getting massive results, you're constantly hopping from one thing to one thing, experiencing low results because of your low commitment. Why does this matter? Starting and stopping repetitively is like rework, but worse over the long term of things because work compounds. As you improve, your learning compounds on previous learnings. So the fact that you stay consistent with one thing over time, that is leverage in itself. Focus is leverage in itself over time. So this is why it's important to stick to one thing. If you have low commitment, you're just going to waste your time. You're not going to be as productive with your time as possible. Now, real wealth will take years to build. So stay commitment and consistent in the journey. So how do you avoid low commitment and inconsistency? You want to adopt the concepts of continuous improvement, or I like to call Kaizen. You want to strive to always improve. Always compare your progress to where you were in the past and ask yourself, have you improved? Always look for ways you can improve over time. Try to find a community of people that makes you stay consistent and motivated to stick to one thing at one time. Because sometimes people lose motivation, they lose a commitment, and they stop. So try to find a group of people that help you stay consistent and onto your path. Better bet on yourself and use forcing functions. So hire a coach or mentor. Try to find any way that's going to hold you accountable into staying consistent with the thing that you actually want to achieve. And then finally, craft a year plan and reverse engineer it into a daily action plan to hold you accountable. Because if you have a daily action plan and you actually make progress, that helps you stay consistent and you're more committed into sticking to it in the long run. And that helps you get